Hello, live start. Very good morning, everyone. How are you all? Super, super. Last class we were doing which accounting standard? AS29. Till now not completed. AS2. Any doubt in accounting standard 2? Any doubt in concept? Those who have joined late, understood, they can also ask doubt about AS2 once they complete. So if you have completed listening the backup classes, you can ask doubt about AS2 also. Okay, correct? Okay. Now I think AS2 almost all the questions we have done in the class only, and whatever balance questions were left, that was similar questions only. So doubt should not come. Okay. Okay. Then we started AS29. We have done meaning of provision, meaning of contingent liability, meaning of contingent asset. So what is the meaning of provision? Provisions are liability which can be measured by a substantial degree of estimation. What is the meaning of liability? Liability are present obligation arising from past event which will be settled through outflow of resource. What is the meaning of contingent liability? Contingent liabilities are present obligation arising from past event which is not recognized because either outflow of resource is not probable or reliable estimation cannot be made, or it is possible obligation arising from past event. What is the meaning of contingent asset? Contingent assets are possible asset arising from past event, the existence of which will be confirmed only by the occurrence or non-occurrence of uncertain future events which are not within the control of entity. Do you memorize this definition? You need to memorize, huh? Okay? You need to memorize it. Correct? Then we have understood one thing, that provision will be recognized. Contingent liability will not be recognized. It requires only disclosure in notes to account. But about contingent asset, what AS29 says that if the inflow is virtually certain, then it will not be, it is not a contingent asset, then it is an asset and that will be recognized. But if the inflow are probable, then it is treated as contingent asset, and for that disclosure is not required in financial statement. Then disclosure is required in the report of approving authority. And if it is not probable, then no treatment. Understood? Then we started measurement, discussing about measurement. So measurement, we have understood it should be the best estimate of future expenditure which is required to settle the obligation on balance sheet date. What is best estimate? It is to be determined by management judgment, which should be supported by experience of past transaction or a report of an expert, or it can be by additional evidence which can be provided by event occurring after balance sheet date. This point number 3 till now I have not explained you, because next chapter is based on that point number 3 only, so that you will automatically understand. Then how to measure? So I hope measurement also you have understood that it should be the expected value of obligation, which is nothing but weighted average of all possible outcomes. Then we are discussing about present value and future value. Have you understood present value and future value? Have you understood calculation of present value and future value? It means one thing we have understood, that key provisions are payable in future. The provision will be settled in future, means it will be settled in future value, and we are preparing balance sheet as on current date. So technically speaking, if I say technically speaking, provisions should be recognized at present value of future expenditure. But what AS29 says that will not do discounting, it should be measured at which amount? At future value only. Correct? So what they are saying, the amount of provision should not be discounted to its present value. Means amount of provision will be undiscounted amount. Can I say this? Undiscounted amount? Undiscounted amount is nothing but future value. When I say discounted amount means what? Present value. When I say undiscounted amount means what? Undiscounted means which is not a discounted, means interest is not deducted. So if I say discounted amount means fair value minus future value minus interest will be equal to what? Present value. बोला रे, future value minus interest will be equal to present value. So that is known as discounted amount. And when I say undiscounted amount means that the interest has not been deducted. That interest has not been deducted. So can I say in this way, the amount of provision should not be discounted to its present value means recognize that what? Don't write FV, write on future value. Recognize that future value. Or we can say future value is nothing but what? Undiscounted amount. Undiscounted amount. In simple word, we'll recognize provision with an amount equal to future expenditure. With an amount equal to future expenditure. Bole yes or no? So if 10 lakh is payable after 2 years, so what will be my amount of provision? 10 lakh. It become very easy now. It become very easy. So from exam point of view, it become easy. Correct? However, there is one exception to this rule. Only in one particular case, we will recognize provision at discounted amount. Discounted amount means at present value. So only at one particular case we need to do discounting. But that particular case we will not discuss right now. We'll discuss when we'll do accounting in standard 10, because right now you will not be able to understand that point. So can I leave this point right now? And I will only come back to this point, don't worry. Okay. Now, this 1, 2, 3, though I hope you have understood. Correct. This also you understood, the provisions should be measured before tax. The amount whatever you are recognizing, that should be before tax. It should not be after tax. Simple point, understood point. Correct. Now one doubt will come. Suppose right now there is an obligation and you need to recognize a provision based on future expenditure. But when that expenditure will be incurred on future date, at that point of time there may be some gain or loss on sale of asset. So if there is some gain on sale of asset, suppose, so whether that gain should be considered for recognizing provision, means whether we should reduce the amount of provision. Understood? Doubt is what? Just try to understand whatever I am saying. Suppose there is some repair expense required. Some repair expense required. Means in future machinery require repair and it is due to past event. Means all the conditions satisfied. So we need to create provision for repair. Now when you will do repair, there will be some damaged part which will be replaced with a new part. So you will sell your damaged part. So there might be some gain on that sale. So suppose repair expenses will be 1 lakh and gain on sale of that damaged part, let us assume 10,000. So should we create provision of 1 lakh or 90,000? Doubt, have you understood? Should we create provision of 1 lakh, that is repair expense amount, or 1 lakh minus 10,000, because there is a 10,000 gain on sale? So what AS 29 says, that gain should not be considered. Gain should not be considered. So gain from expected sale of asset shall not be considered for measurement of provision. So gain on expected sale of asset. So of course that is an expected sale of asset. So we will not consider that gain for recognition of amount of provision. Means provision means only future expenditure. Provision means only future expenditure. We should not reduce any gain from future expenditure to calculate the amount of provision. Understood this point? So these all 4 points from this MCQ question can be asked. Correct now? MCQ question can be asked. With this we have completed what? With this we completed what? Measurement wala point. Measurement understood? Now changes in the amount of provision. Changes. Just try to understand everyone. Right now we are on 31st March. 31st March. Some high court case is pending. Correct. And suppose all conditions satisfied for recognition of provision. So you need to recognize provision. You recognize provision. We are recognizing provision based on best estimate as per the information available on this date. Means we need to estimate future expenditure based on the information available on balance sheet date, na? Correct? So it means we have suppose done best estimation, and best estimation whatever we have done based on the information available is 10 lakh. So we need to create a provision of 10 lakh. We need to create a provision of 10 lakh. Now what happened? 1 year expired, again second year came, and still this high court case is pending. Means till now the decision is not, means the case is not yet decided, still pending. Correct? So can you see we need to now do reassessment, for that particular case. Can you see information may change? It is quite possible that initially it was present obligation, now it may become possible obligation due to new information obtained in that case. Correct now? You know about Salman Khan case. He every time when we were thinking that now the pakka, then once again he was released. Correct now? So it means there might be some new information in this case. So present obligation might become possible obligation or remote obligation. So if initially you have recognized provision, it is quite possible now provision is no more required. If it become possible obligation, so now contingent liability need to be disclosed. Now the provision is not required now. So due to new information or new development, bole yes or no? In this particular case, the amount of provision may require changes. Suppose you have done 10 lakh, now it requires 15 lakh, or it may be less than 10 lakh, or provision might not be no longer required. Correct now? So it means we will do reassessment of what? We are doing reassessment of such amount at each balance sheet date. Correct? To reflect the amount of provision with the best estimate as on this date. Understood? So what AS 29 says that? Let us read. Now you'll understand. Provision must be reviewed at each balance sheet date. Understood? It must be reviewed at each balance sheet date and adjusted to reflect the best current estimate. Means now we need to find out best estimate as on the current balance sheet date. Understood? If provision is no longer required, it is quite possible present obligation now become possible obligation or remote obligation. So now provision is no longer required. So we need to reverse the entire amount of provision. So if provision is no longer required, as it is not probable, amount of provision must be reversed. Understood? Correct. Means just try to understand what will be the accounting. What is the accounting treatment for recognition of provision? Correct. Write down. If provision is related to an expense, if provision is related, directly related to an asset. So there can be two situations. Understood? Point number A, for recognition of provision. So in first case, what will be journal entry? Expense account debit to provision, and expense will be transferred to PL. But in this case, what will be journal entry? It will be asset account debit to provision. Simple. Correct now? Now, point number B. For reversal of provision, for reversal means now provision is no longer required. If provision is no longer required, so reverse the previous entry. So what journal entry will do? Provision account debit to what? Expense. And this will what? Provision account debit to asset. I think journal entry to no doubt. Correct. Understood? Have you understood this point? Correct. Now, of course, can I say, till now in CA Foundation you have done the first case only when it is related to expense. I think you have not done any time when the provision is related to asset. So once again, this point I will do when I will do AS10. Let us refer AS10. Means that exception wala case is nothing but this. I said that there is one exception to present value. So that is nothing but this case. So when I will do that point, automatically you understand that asset need to be debited. Correct? I think accounting treatment is very simple. Accounting treatment is very simple. Got it? Can we proceed? Yes, sir. Simple. Life is simple. Then come to next point. Use of provision. Use of provision. Use of provision. Correct. Now suppose you have created provision for a particular purpose. Any purpose, any case was there. So you already created provision. Now provision is no longer required. Now can we use that amount of provision for any other purpose? Means you say we will not reverse it. We will use the amount of provision for some other purpose. Can we do that? Well, no. If it is no longer required, you reverse it only. You can't use that amount of provision for some other purpose. Understood? Means it should be used only for those purposes for which it was originally recognized. It was originally recognized. Understood? So what they are saying, a provision should be used only for the expenditure for which it was originally recognized. Correct? In other words, it cannot be used for any other purpose. Means if it is no longer required, reverse it. But you can't use it for any other expense. You can't use it for any other expense. Understood? Simple point. I think no explanation required. Now, there are 4 special cases. How many special cases? 4. Now, this special case is nothing but application of whatever we have done till now. If you have understood whatever we have done till now, you can answer by your own. This concept I have given. Understood? So let me explain this case not by reading, by giving some examples. So you need to say me what need to be done by applying the concept whatever we have done till now. Understood? First special case is about reimbursement. About reimbursement. Reimbursement means what? See, the future expenditure for which we have already recognized provision, that will be reimbursed by third party. That will be reimbursed by third party. Third party can be insurance company or any other party. Correct now? Understood? See, any future expenditure for which already we have recognized provision, understood, will be reimbursed by third party. Quite possible. It will be reimbursed. Correct now? So, let's see how you are reacting if you have understood. Just try to understand. Suppose on 31st March, a High Court case was pending and all the conditions were satisfied and provision need to be recognized. Correct. But this case was pending due to the some mistake of director. Means director has committed some mistake. So director has given a guarantee to company that once the case is decided against the company, so they will reimburse the amount of compensation to the company. Means can I say there is one outflow? There is outflow now, and there is one inflow also now. There is some inflow also. Outflow is nothing but future expenditure. Future expenditure is outflow. Means the case is decided against the company. First the company need to pay that amount now. But that amount will be paid, reimbursed by whom? Director. Quite possible because he has given a guarantee that I will reimburse, nothing to worry. Nothing to worry. Correct. Sometimes your father will also say, don't worry, you expense, I will reimburse. Means you do, I will reimburse. Sometimes you do some expenditure from your pocket money, but then you demand from your father, that is, please reimburse. Am I right or not? Correct? Quite possible. Okay. So there is an inflow due to the such reimbursement. A reimbursement. Correct? Have you understood this point? Okay. Now suppose the amount of this future expenditure is 10 lakh. The first doubt will come, should we create provision because that is reimbursed? That can be reimbursed. The first doubt will come, should we create provision? Yes or no? Have you understood first doubt? Because that future expenditure will be reimbursed by third party. So actually that 10 lakh, even though that is paid, that will be recovered. So should we create provision? Yes or no? Yes, very good. Means you have understood the emotions. These two are two separate transactions. So provision is separate, outflow is separate, inflow is separate. Because both are different, both payment is done to some other party and recovery is from some other party. So of course we should create provision because all the three conditions are satisfied. So we will recognize provision of what amount? 10 lakh. Will pass one journal entry expense account debit to provision. Will pass one journal entry expense account debit to provision. This much you understood? Now, what about reimbursement? Let's see how you are reacting. Reimbursement means inflow. Inflow. Raise your hand. What you will do about this reimbursement? You need to say. No. What will be the accounting treat? Journal entry will come and you will recognize it. If you are not recognizing it, the question of journal entry will not come now. First you say will recognize or will not recognize. So this is what? Reimbursement means inflow. But future inflow na. Correct? But guarantee has been given right now only. So it arises due to past event only. It arises due to past event. Correct? Batao. My question to you all, what will be the accounting treatment for this inflow? Have you understood the topic? So whatever we have done till now, that only you need to apply. If you have understood till now, then you can say otherwise. So I need to say. Correct? But बहुत अच्छी मतलब I am happy with you that you are linking with the contingent asset concept, but you should not say in this way. Abhi right now I have not said whether it is virtually certain, it is not virtually certain. That will depend upon facts and circumstances. Correct now? You should say if it is virtually certain, then what will do? Then recognize asset. Very good, excellent. I am happy with you. Recognize asset. And if it is not virtually certain, then very good. If it is probable, then what? Very good, excellent. Then it will be a contingent asset and disclosure required. But if it is not probable, then what? No treatment. Excellent. Low. No treatment. Means you have understood. Means you have understood. Means simply that reimbursement is possible inflow. Means possible asset. So it means whatever we have done for contingent asset, that will be applicable. So what he said that if that reimbursement is virtually certain, then recognize it as a separate asset in the balance sheet. Then recognize it as a separate asset in the balance sheet. But if it is not virtually certain, but it is probable, inflow is probable, then it is similar to contingent asset. Disclose the fact in the report of approving authority. But if it is not probable, then no treatment required. Understood? Now, what AS29 says that yes, we need to recognize asset, but we should recognize a separate asset in the balance sheet. Means we should not set off with the amount of provision. Means suppose your provision is what, 10 lakh, so your asset should be separate whatever amount you are creating. So it should be a separate asset in the balance sheet. You can't set off that amount with the provision amount. This provision will not be reduced with the amount of asset in the balance sheet. But in SOPL, this is balance sheet now. In SOPL, net amount will be shown as an expense. Means in SOPL, we write down provision, means whatever expense you are writing, 10 lakh minus whatever we have done, suppose 9 lakh. So 1 lakh will be expense. 1 lakh will be expense. Means in SOPL, net amount will be shown as an expense, but in balance sheet, a separate asset will be recognized. Understood this point? Have you understood this point? Correct. Now, the last question to you, the amount of reimbursement asset. Amount of reimbursement asset, can it exceed the amount of provision? No, of course, reimbursement cannot be more than what? More than provision. So what they said, reimbursement amount should not exceed the amount of provision. Either it will be equal to the amount of provision or less than the amount of provision. It should not exceed the amount of provision. Correct only? Because no one will reimburse more than what? Actual expenditure. If your expenditure is 10 lakh, whether you will get a reimbursement of 11 lakh, not possible. Not possible. And suppose if possible also, so it is against conservatism. We can't recognize expected gain. We can't recognize expected gain. So now the gain ho raha hai na, so they say no. It should not be more than what? It should not be more than the amount of provision. Understood? This is the entire concept. Can you see, this is nothing but application of the concept whatever we have done till now. Nothing new point. Not a new point. It is a different case. We need to apply AS29 on that by using the concept. Correct? I hope you have understood. So what is written? Check karenge. When expenditure required to settle a provision, is expected to be reimbursed by a third party. This third party can be insurance company, for example, insurance company, or any other party. Correct. So reimbursement, if it is virtually certain, virtually certain means what? More than 95%. Then recognize reimbursement as separate asset in balance sheet. In balance sheet now. So recognize a reimbursement as a separate asset in balance sheet. Such amount is set off against the provision and net amount is shown in PL. So such amount will be set off with provision and net amount will be shown in statement of profit loss as an expense. Amount recognized as reimbursement asset should not exceed the amount of provision. Understood? Have you understood this? All 3 points? Bolo. Understood? Now, if it is not virtually certain, then it is not recognized as an asset. It is not recognized as a asset. So, we will not recognize it as an asset. But you can say, if inflow, right? If inflow is probable, such reimbursement can be disclosed where? Very good. In the report of, very good. In the report of approving authority. Excellent. Understood? Have you understood this point? Yes, sir. Correct. Let me take one example. Suppose, example of reimbursement. Correct? Think and say. Suppose there was one company F, understood? And he has a customer K, understood? Now because of wrong product sold, this K has filed a case against whom? F. Quite possible. Because of wrong product transferred whatever. Correct? But F came to know that the defect in the product was because of raw material supplied by someone. Because the raw material was defective, therefore their manufactured goods become defective. So they have filed a case against what? Their supplier. So they have a supplier, what? L. Understood this point? So it means F purchase goods from L and F sold goods to K. So we are doing from F point of view. Huh? Right now we are doing from F point of view. This question is based on what? F. You will think from F point of view. Correct? Understood? Now what F says that? Means as per expert, chances of defeat is high, and here chances of win is high. Correct? Understood? And nothing is given, we'll assume all other conditions satisfied. That only assumption we should take. Means if nothing is given about outflow of resource, so we'll assume outflow of resource is probable, only a reliable estimation can be made. A reliable estimation can be made. Understood? Correct? Understood? Are you able to understand? Correct? Now, F is estimating on 31st March, correct, that estimated outflow, suppose case or थोड़ा सा interesting, suppose this case was filed on 1/1/2023 and this case was filed on 1/Feb/2023. Quite possible. Now on 1/Jan/2023 they have estimated that their outflow will be 10 lakh, and on 1/Feb/2023 they have estimated that their probable inflow, the inflow will be how much? Suppose 7 lakh. Quite possible. Then on 31st March estimation change. Quite possible. Estimation may change now. So now they are estimating it will be 11 lakh and this will be on 31st March 2023 8 lakh. Correct? Understood? Have you understood? Very good question I have created. So of course it is a question of reimbursement, that too you have understood. Because whatever case F has filed against L, there is a possible inflow. So my question first about provision. Should we recognize provision? Yes, we should recognize provision. Correct? Yes. You should write down yes because all the three conditions are satisfied. Understood? By what amount? 10 lakh, 11 lakh. Apply your common sense. 10 lakh, 11 lakh. 10 lakh, 11 lakh. Because we recognize provision on which date? On balance sheet date. Whatever is given before balance sheet date is not at all relevant only. Means you will create provision of what? 11 lakh. This to you want to, this is solution, huh? Solution. Now, should we create a reimbursement asset? Should we recognize the reimbursement asset? Should we recognize a reimbursement asset? Yes or no? No. I have written chances of win is high. High does not mean virtually certain. High can be 70%, 80%, 90% also. But it is not virtually certain. So till question says it is virtually certain, don't assume virtually certain. Because virtually certain, so they will mention na. How can you assume it is virtually certain? High means probable. Yes or no? High means probable. But high does not means what? Virtually certain. So high does not means no evidence of, there is no evidence of what? VC. VC means virtual camera. VC means virtual certainty, not virtual camera. Certainty na? So in this, can I say will not recognize, do not recognize an asset for reimbursement? Have you understood this point? Batao. This question you are able to answer it or not? For example, I have given idea of virtual certainty. But if virtual certainty, so you have only said ki, yes, if it is given the question that if it is virtual certainty to use, what you would have said? Asset. So means this type of question you can do or not? This question I have taken from CA final. This question I have taken from CA final book below. But any difference? This question I have taken from CA final book. But you can answer CA final question also, na? You ask them, they might not. It might happen that they are not able to answer it. It might happen if they are not conceptually strong. Because I know them also, na? What they know, what they don't know. My student will always excel if they have faith on me. You know, to have faith on me, thoda sa. They will become expert. And believe me, after my class now, you can teach accounting standard to CA final student. That much commitment I am giving. But you need to have faith on me. थोड़ा faith रखो. Yes, you can teach accounting standard to them because they don't know AS. Because I know from where they have done AS. So do you have faith on me? Have faith. Okay. And you will find the difference. After 20-30 class now, you will find a change in yourself. When you start discussing with your friends or seniors. That change you will find. But give me 20-30 class. Got it? I mean, it is very initial stage because I am just trying to develop you as per my requirement. Once you develop, then to maja aayega class mein. Correct? So done reimbursement. Now any question of this nature you can answer na, or you require my help for that. You are answering CA final question, so lollipop question, so you can answer only. Bola re, smile. Yes, always smiling. Even though you are not understanding, smile. Okay. Even though you are not understanding, smile. Okay. Smile should be on your face. This also you want to do. Now next, the topic is future operating loss. So this also I need to ask you some question. Are you ready? Let's see whether you are able to apply the concept or not. Future operating loss. Okay. Suppose I'm just giving one case study. Suppose we have two factories, two business. You can say business 1 and business 2. One company may have two business. For example, we have also multiple business: CA Foundation, CA Inter, CA Final. Then we are going to start CMA also. Then we are also planning to start junior college also soon. एक बहुत सारा planning है, लंबा plan, लंबा प्लान है, ठीक है. So it means we are going into different business ना, correct? But we'll start junior college only for those students who are interested in CA. Come 11, 12 here with CA. So we'll groom you from what? Class 11, 12. I know what others are doing. They are not teaching. They are exploiting the student. They are not teaching, taking money but exploiting. Correct? Understood. At one point, you are doing a CA course. Just try to understand this point. CA course. Whether the non-CA can teach you CA. They don't know the emotions of CA only. I know the emotions of student because I have gone through that phase. I have done CA foundation. I have done CA inter. I have done CA final. So your emotion I can only understand. Those who have not done CA, those who have not appeared in CA foundation exam, whether they can understand your emotions? Never. They can't teach CA. They can't teach CA. But normally what happens is CA foundation student non-CA are teaching. And that is actually the point where CA student base become what? Minus. Now from minus to I need to once again create a positive in CA inter. That is very difficult. Correct? But chalo, you came to right place. Business 1, business 2. Business 1, business 2. Business 1, business 2, you understood? Yes, sir. Now one was profit making. Jabardast. One was loss making. Quite possible. Quite possible there can be loss. We always intend to earn profit. But there may be loss also, na? Correct? Loss. So one was loss. Means, abhi right now, we are into 2020 to 23. This is our current year. In current year, there was a loss of 10 lakh. So this loss is already recognized in the financial statement. Now what management is expecting, in the future few years, there will be again some loss. They are expecting. This loss might be 12 lakh, 13 lakh, etc. So now they are estimating that this business too may have some loss in future also, and therefore they are planning to discontinue it. They are planning, they have not discontinued it. Are you getting? They are planning that the loss making business, let us close down only. But they are planning, till now they have not taken any decision. Now my question to you all, when business 2 will be discontinued, whether the entity will be closed down? Entity will remain because business 1 is there. So we are only planning to close down business 1. Why? Because we are expecting some future operating loss. We are expecting some future operating loss. My question to you all, in this year, because on 31st March 2003, we are standing right now here, 31st March 2000, should we create any provision for future operating loss? Have you understood this point? Question, have you understood? Question. See, on 31st March, management is expecting that in coming 2 years, in business 2, we may incur some loss, future means operating loss in future. Operating loss means from business loss. Means while doing business, income minus expense will be loss. So should we recognize such loss on 31st March 2023? Should we recognize such loss on 31st March 2023? How many are saying yes? How many are saying no? Everyone need to respond either yes or no. No one will be silent. Huh? Yes, how many are saying? No, how many are saying? And how many are saying yes, no, sir? Head kalo, coin nikalo. Head means yes, no means what? Tell. Either yes or no. Huh? Think, even though your answer is wrong, nothing to worry na. But this is based on future event, past event. Why past event? It is a future business now. You have not done any business only. In future you will conduct business. When you will do business, then only such loss will arise now. You may decide to terminate business right now only. Are बोलना रे? It is dependent on future conduct of business. बोलना yes or no? It is based on future event outside the scope of this chapter only. Means no provisions will be recognized. Simple. Already we have done this point. Apply everything. From whether there is an obligation from past event. There is a past event. No past event. There is a future event na. Correct. But majority of you said correct. Majority of you have said correct. So okay only na. Dire will become what? Expert in this. Means same question I asked at CA final level also. When I teach CA final same point, there also same answer will come. Someone will say correct, someone will say wrong. So means no difference na. Believe me, one day though I will teach, I will bring you in my CA final class. And if you are able to understand, means you can understand anything na. So one day you will come, huh? Correct. And if you can answer better than CA final student, तब तो मजा आ गया ना. अरे बोलना नहीं. If suppose they are not able to answer, you are answering, तो मजा आया ना. That I want. That confidence I want in you. And I will prove that you are able to answer. I prove. Correct? Even right now you can see it in CA final class also. Understood? Chalo. So 100% correct. No provision. No provision. Are you writing these examples now? No, don't write. Don't write. I will give the PDF of this. Okay. You are not good in writing. Correct. From beginning I am saying write, but you are not writing. Better I will give PDF only. Huh. Better I will give PDF now. Because someone yes a PDF then. Okay, you take PDF only. In class also take PDF only. In exam also don't write. In exam also you ask PDF only, sir. Scan our PDF. Nalayak. Such a lazy student. I am writing and you are not writing. This example you have written. Yes, sir. This is also right. इसने क्या पाप किया है? Profit, हाँ profit. इसलिए बोलते when I say ना then only you write. Sometime flow में I write in bad handwriting. They will say what is this? What is this? Then I will say I also don't know. And if you will take this PDF, तो then तो मजा आ गया. Then तो you will ask your GF, मतलब good friend. Why do you think about GF? Good friend, huh? When I say GF means what? Good friend. Or BF means bekar friend. GF means what? Good friend. Or BF means bekar friend. So don't misunderstood me, huh? If I am asking go and enjoy with your GF, so don't misunderstood me. Correct? GF means what? Good friend. And BF means bekar friend. We have some good friend, we have some BF also bekar friend. All are good. All are required in our life. Correct? Written. Done? So let's see what AS29 says. Means write properly. If you will not write properly, then you will not understand the emotions of this particular topic. Future operating loss. So we are discussing on this date, on 31st March 2003. This is a loss of this year, future loss. This is a loss of this year, future loss. Means if you want to write down this is 23-24 and this is 24-25. So no provision on 31st March 2023 because it is based on future conduct of business. You need to give reason also. Huh? So what they are saying, check करेंगे. Few provisions should not be recognized for future operating losses. Future operating losses do not meet the definition of liability only because liability is a present obligation arising from past event. So if it is not a liability, the question of recognition will not arise only. Correct? Can we proceed? Then executory contract. In CA Foundation, you have done one act. Contract Act 19 या 18? 18 na? 18? Such a old act means India is doing what? Just to be revised na? 1871 na? 72. 1872 act. Obsolete act. India government has no time only. They are busy in so much corruption. They don't have time to revise what? Act only. Correct na? Partnership Act before independence. 1932 ना? 2 ना? मतलब मेरा grandfather भी पैदा नहीं हुआ होगा. Means just try to understand. India government has no time to revise that. This is our Indian government. We should change it. But right now government is good. Correct. What I am saying, just try to understand. Indian government don't have time to revise the actual trick, but they are not revising. We read that only. Correct. So you have done Contract Act. Have you done their executory contract? Yes, sir. Very good. If you say yes, when I ask this question at CA final level, what is this, sir? Because CA foundation 5 years before, na. Chalo, you have done taja taja. Do you remember? Who will explain what is executory contract? Partially, 50% correct means correct. You pass CA. You only sit. You have a right to sit. I have an obligation to stand. One second, one second. Partially to correct. Means 50% correct means you can become CA. Anyone can give 70%, 80% correct to rank aa jata. Anyone want to refine this more perfectly? This is 100% correct. Means you are better than rank 1. So think about rank now. Correct. It does not mean you can't score rank. Anyone who is answering, I always like them. Those who are not answering, I don't like them. They can have to try to answer. Even though it is wrong, I will like you. But 100% correct. Executive contract are those contracts. Listen, those who have not done in CA Foundation, because there are many people here from direct entry also. So nothing to worry. So just try to executive contract. Contract we understood. Contract means any agreement between two parties. Two or more than two parties. Any agreement between two or more than two parties which is enforceable in the eyes of law. In the eyes of law. Which can be enforceable in the eyes of law. So executive contract are those contracts which is either performed partially by both the party or it is not yet performed by both the party. Both the party. Understood? Now my question to you, in a contract, suppose I have done one contract. We have done one contract that I will teach you. You will receive something now. So just try to understand. In this contract, who have a right and who have an obligation? Who have a right, who have an obligation? In this contract, we have done one contract now. Teaching contract. So in this contract, which party has a right and which party has an obligation? One by one. Which party? Means student has right or obligation? Right. And teacher has? No. Both party have a right. Both party have an obligation. I have a right to receive consideration. You have an obligation to pay consideration. Yes or no? I have an obligation to teach you. And you have a right to receive services. So you have right as well as obligation. I have also right as well as obligation. So in a contract, both parties have a right. Both parties have an obligation. So what right I have? I have a right to receive payment. I have a right to receive payment and I have an obligation to provide services. I have an obligation to teach you. Means I am providing some services to you. So that is my obligation. You have a right to receive services and an obligation to pay consideration. So you have your own right, own obligation. I have my own right, own obligation. Correct? So what they are saying, executive contract are contract under which neither party have performed any of his obligation. Is both party has not performed their part of obligation. Means I have not performed my services and you have not paid any consideration. Both party has neither performed their obligations. Okay. Or both party have partially performed their obligation to an equal extent. Means 50% I have taught you and 50% you have paid me. So 50% I have not taught you. So 50% you have not paid me. Understood? Have you understood the definition? Understood? Actual definition you have understood. Obligation. Obligation. So both parties have their own obligation. Correct? One second. Executive contract or contract under which neither party has performed any of its obligation, or both party have partially performed, their obligation to an equal extent, This is known as executory contract. Let me give an example of executory contract. Let me suppose executory contract. मजा आ रहा है ना? Executory contract. Correct. Now what happened? A, B. A is a buyer and B is a seller. Understood? Correct. Now they have done one contract on 1/4/2023. Better, I don't. On 1/1/2023 to buy machinery at rupees 10 lakh after 1 year. Oh, after 1 year. Correct. So what is the obligation of A? To pay 10 lakh. And what is the obligation of B? To deliver what? Machinery. Correct. And can I say, of course, delivery will be done after 1 year, so payment will be done after 1 year, na? Yeah, I will make payment right now. After 1 year, it is a executory contract or it is not an executory contract? Executory contract. Have you understood the example? And we create this type of contract normally happen in market. Normally happen in the market. If you are a businessman, your father is a businessman, ask your father that this type of contract they also do. Now my question to you all, in whose books liability should come? No, I am asking liability. Because both have an obligation, na? So in which books liability should come? So can I say liability means what? Settlement, payment. So of course liability will come in his books. Means can I say AS29 is applicable to A na? AS29 is not applicable to B. AS29 is not applicable to B. Because liability means present obligation arising from past event which will be settled in future through outflow of resource. Correct? Understood? No. In B bookseller, so just try to understand. They will deliver machine, but that is sale transaction. They will recognize revenue for that. Means we are thinking from A's point of view. But can I say this is an executory contract for both? Now my question to you all, contract done. And as per this contract, now think, as per this contract, how much amount A should pay? 10 lakh. After how many years? 1 year. When they will receive what? Machinery. Can I say this way? My question to you all, whether A should recognize any liability right now? Have you understood what I am saying? One second. Contract done. Correct. A has an obligation to pay after 1 year when the machinery will be delivered. Correct. So whether A should recognize any liability right now? Yes sir or no sir? Yes sir. How many are saying yes? How many are saying no? How many are saying yes? How many are saying no? No. Means 1 second, someone is saying yes, someone is saying no. Those who are saying no, can you give me the reason? 100% this is a future event. This is a future event, but contract is done, sir. Just try to understand, everyone. This one concept, substance over form. Substance over form. This was also a topic of what? CA Foundation. Have you done this substance over form principle? You have not done. But this is also one topic in CA Foundation. Teacher don't teach because they think that you will not understand. That is the only reason. Substance of, or it might have been they also don't know. So how they will teach? Substance over form means what? Our accounting treatment is based on actual happening of the transaction. It is not based on the legal document. It is not based on legal document. Since contract is a legal document. So for accounting treatment, we should not give importance to legal document. We should see what is the actual happening of the transaction. We should think about the actual happening of the transaction. Correct. And based on that, we do journal entry. So substance over form means reality of the transaction will prevail over legality of the transaction. Means we'll give more importance to what? Reality than legality. So contracts should not be taken into consideration. Contract done, but this is an executory contract now. This will perform in future. If the obligation will perform in future, so it is past event or future event. Machinery will be delivered in future. So when machinery will be delivered, then only your obligation will arise now. If machinery is not delivered, whether there is an obligation to pay, there is no obligation to pay, so why you are recognizing a liability? Means can you say for executory contract AS 29 is not applicable only? AS 29 is not, because there is no liability only. So liability means present obligation arising from past event. But I will say there is no obligation only. There is no obligation from past event. There is an obligation from future event. So can you say this is actually, this is what? Actually, this is after 1 year. Means this is what? Based on future event. Future event. And therefore, can you say there is no liability? No liability. Why? As there is no obligation arising from past event, and therefore AS 29 is not applicable only. Applicable only. Have you understood this point? Correct. I'll give you one more example for better understanding. थोड़ा तो you understood. थोड़ा. But for better understanding, one more example. Understood? Substance over form means what? Reality of transactions will prevail over legality of transactions, and therefore even the contract was done, that is not at all important. Even though contract was done, it was not at all important now. Reality of transactions reality of transactions will prevail over legality of transaction. Understood? Correct. In detail, once again, we'll do substance of a form, don't worry. Now, this was example number 1. Let us come to example number 2. Suppose you have taken one asset on lease. In what? Lease. Correct. You have taken one asset on lease, or let us say rent, better. Lease will be thoda sa technical term. Lease will discuss in detail in AS19. In AS19 coming soon. So in that we'll do detail. So I have divided accounting standard 2 parts. First phase, second phase. First phase I will do only those areas which I think you can understand initially. Then I will start all the chapters. Then last phase means third phase means second phase of accounting standard will become a third phase. Means third phase, 3 phase of I will discuss first, second, third. So first my accounting standard, then second my all the chapters whatever we discussed that these are chapters also, and then what again balance accounting standard. Correct. So this is my way of teaching will be there. Correct. So right now I will take those accounting standard which I think that you can understand right now. So lease detailed discussion will be done in AS19. So let us assume we have taken building on rent. We have taken building on rent. So building on rent. My question to you is, suppose this building I have taken on rent. Understood? Well, this building is my asset or asset of owner. Owner, so this building will not come in my balance sheet, na? So this building will not come in my balance sheet. This much only you understand right now. Correct? So this building is not my asset because I am not controlling the building. Means I can't do any alteration without the permission of owner. Can I do any alteration in this building without any permission of owner? Means it is not under my control. If it is not under my control, it is not an asset. Asset means what? Asset means any resource which is controlled by the entity. So this is not under my control. But I have taken this building on rent for 5 years. So annual rent is 1 lakh per annum. Understood? This is what? Y0, Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, Y5. When I say Y0 means what? At the beginning of the contract. Y0 means what? At the beginning of the contract. Then Y1 means year end 1, then year end 2, then year end 3, then year end 4, then year end 5. Understood? Y0 means what? Whenever I write Y0 means at the beginning of the contract. Understood? And suppose this rent is payable at the end of each year. Correct. So as per the contract, so 1 lakh is payable. Now, whether it is an executory contract, it is not an executory contract, let us understand. But at Y0, what is my obligation? Obligation to pay. What is owner obligation? To provide me building. But at Y0, whether I have paid, whether he has provided, no. So it is an executory contract. For the remaining 5 years, means it is neither performed by the owner nor performed by the tenant. So that Y1, can I say I will pay for 1 year and he will provide building to be used by me for 1 year. So at Y1, so can you see it is an executory contract or it is not an executory contract? No, executory, because it is partially performed by both the party to an equal extent. It is partially performed by both the party to an equal extent, but for 4 years it is an executive contract na. This is remaining 4 years na. It is an executive contract or not? Are you able to understand? Understood the meaning of executory contract? So this is also at Y0 it is fully not performed. At Y1 it is partially performed. At Y2 also partially performed. At Y3 also partially performed. At Y4 also partially performed. Y5 performed. So it is not an executive contract. It is already executed at Y5. Understood? But can I say all this here it will be executory only because partially performed to an equal extent? To an equal extent. Can I ask question now? It is an executive contract. That have you understood? Now suppose we are standing here. Already 1 lakh has been paid and we have used the building for 1 year. So it is an executory contract for remaining 4 years. Now for remaining 4 years, how much is payable? 4 lakh is payable. Should we recognize liability for 4 lakh? No. Why? Because it is based on future event. Because it is executive contract. To executive contract, what is not applicable? But you only say, suppose this amount was 1 lakh was payable, but you have not paid. So how much liability you recognize? Because this 1 lakh belongs to which contract? Which is already executed. Which is already executed. So 1 lakh if you have not paid, that is a liability. You need to recognize that liability. That only you do from bachpan se. Rent payable. But you have done contract for entire 5 years na. So will you recognize liability for entire 5 years? No. No. AS29 understood? Have you understood? This much you understood. Correct? So what they say? What they are saying? This standard does not apply to executory contract unless they are onerous. Oh my God. Climax आ गया story में. There is a climax in the story. What they are saying? This standard is not applicable to executory contract. This must be understood. Unless they are onerous. So what is onerous contract? So I need to explain that also now. What is onerous contract? That I need to explain. Executory though you understood na? Now let us come to onerous contract. The next point is what? Onerous contract. Understood? Are you able to understand? One by one you are understanding each point. Let us come to onerous. Don't read. Can I come to onerous contract now? Write down. Next point. Point number I will no. Onerous. Write down this all example because this will help you in revision. This will help you in revision. Onerous contract. So let us come to example 1 and example 2 above only. And let us make it onerous. Abhi to it was executory only na. Let us convert that contract into an onerous contract. Same example. A. B. A is a buyer. B is a seller. A has done one commitment, this contract, to what? Buy machinery at rupees what? 10 lakh. After how many years? 1 year. Date of contract is what? What date I have given? 1st Jan 2023. Correct? Now what happened? I am changing the story. Some masala in the story. This must be you understood that right now it is an executory contract and AS29 is not applicable. You know any CA final student? Huh? CA final student? Correct. Sometime discuss this with them and you will understand difference among you and them. If they are able to answer, okay, they are able to answer, they are CA final student. Nah. But if they are not able to answer, give one big slap. See how you came to CA final. Am I right or not? अरे यो चाचा वाचा है तो सॉरी हाँ जब मीज योर ब्रदर है तो डोंट बीट करेक्ट मीन्स सम आउटसाइड relation. Okay, so if suppose they are not able to answer, so you will have a doubt about themselves okay, how they pass CA inter. So if they can pass, so you will pakka pass na. If they can pass, so you will pakka pass. Correct. एक बार टेस्ट करना, just test it. You will find a difference. Correct. Can I put some masala in this? Now what happened? On 22nd March, any date I say 22nd March. Correct now. This A decided to, when I say contract means what? It is always non-cancelable contract. Contract are non-cancelable. If it is cancelable, it is not a contract because it is not enforceable by law. If I am saying I can cancel the batch anytime, so it is not enforceable by law, na. I have a right to cancel. Means you don't have right only. I will say one day I teach, after that no, I will not teach you. So it is cancelable. So cancelable contract means non-cancelable. So when I say contract, this also write down somewhere. Here I write down. So when I am saying contract, I am teaching law, na. I am teaching law, na. Means I can teach any subject, na. But I will not teach. So contract means these are non-cancelable contract. What is non-cancelable contract? Non-cancelable contract are those contracts which can be cancelled. सुनना मजा आ रहा है. Non-cancelable contract are those contracts which can be cancelled, but upon payment of penalty. Means you are cancelling, you have to pay penalty for that. Understood? So non-cancelable contract are those contracts which can be cancelled upon payment of penalty. Then so can you say anything can be cancelled? I mean right now if I cancel, will you be able to do anything? I will say nahi pada tha. हाँ, but you have a right to file a case against me. बोलना yes or no? And in that I need to, if I am defeated in that case, I need to pay compensation to you. But don't please, don't file a case against me. I will teach. So non-cancelable contract are those contracts which can be cancelled upon payment of what? Penalty. Means there will be one penalty clause. Yes, sir. Have you understood this point? Chalo. This you have understood. Contract you have understood. Now, on 22nd March, what happened? They decided to change the production process due to COVID-19. When COVID-19 came, we need to change our entire face-to-face class to recorded classes now. So our benches become bekar. They were like idle like this for 2 years. And believe me, 1 week before I have done one contract to what? Means I have done one contract for this new benches. These are new benches. This was purchased before COVID only. And we have done contract. And there was binding contract, so I need to purchase that even though it was not in use. Means I have paid rent only for storing this what? Bank. Where I will keep it? Matha. Correct na? होता है. Correct. But I'm just giving case. It can be a system. They decided to change the production process due to COVID-19, and now they are not need of what? They have no use of such machinery. Oh, they have no use of such machinery which was already contracted to purchase. Have you understood this point? This machinery is of no use of now because they want to change the production process and now they don't want that machinery. Understood? Correct. So now what happened from A's point of view? This contract become onerous because if they will purchase it, so they can't use it, and they can't use it, so they are paying how much? 10 lakh, but there is no future economic benefit. So can you say their future economic benefit is less than the expected cost to meet the obligation? Means they are not deriving the entire benefit from the machinery because they will not use it now. Are you getting what I am saying? So this contract become a burden for them. It become onerous. It become onerous because they can't cancel it, and even though they cancel, they need to pay penalty for that. There might be some penalty clause also. It means if they are performing that contract, if they are performing their part of obligation, they need to pay what? 10 lakh. But what is the future economic benefit? Nothing. They can't use that machinery. They can't use that machinery. So they can sell that machinery now. Chalo, if we can sell also, but we are not the seller of that machinery. So can we sell more than a 10 lakh? No, not possible. Just try to understand right now. I purchased this mobile. I purchased this mobile. Suppose today only I purchased this mobile at rupees 50,000. Let us assume. So I purchased. Now today, if I want to sell it, whether I will get 50,000? No. Brand, it is not what? Taken out of the box also. Brand new. Whether it can be sold at 50,000? No. Impossible because you are not the vendor of this. Just try. You will sell at either less than 50,000 or you will not be able to sell it. Just try once, buy and then try to sell. Come to me, I will give 50%. But I will not give what? 100%. There is some, your friend, etc. That is something different. Correct now? That is something different. But it is not possible to sell it at same price. Because buy price and sale price are different. Understood? So can I say, even though they want to sell it, they can't sell at 10 lakh? Means NRV of that machinery will be less than 10 lakh. So this contract become onerous now. We are not able to derive the benefit from that machinery. So this become a burden for us. Burden. And therefore it become onerous. Onerous means onerous for us. Understood? So now what AS29 says? AS29 is applicable. Once it become onerous, so now it is based on some past event, and the past event is that you have decided to change the production process, and now it become an onerous contract for you, and for onerous contract AS29 is applicable. So what they want to say ki now it become an onerous contract, and for this AS29 is applicable, and AS29 says you need to recognize a provision for unavoidable cost with an amount equal to unavoidable cost, which will be lower of point number A, cost of fulfilling that contract, cost of fulfilling that contract, B, penalty payable to exit from that contract, to cancel that contract, penalty payable to cancel the contract. Have you understood this point? Have you understood this point? Just write down, I will explain. So it become an onerous contract. AS29 is applicable. Provision is equal to unavoidable cost. Unavoidable cost is lower of what? Cost of fulfilling. Cost of fulfilling that contract. That contract, or what? Penalty payable to cancel the contract. Whichever is lower. Whichever is lower. Understood? But to fulfill the contract, how much amount is payable? 10 lakh. And suppose to cancel the contract, you are supposed to pay, suppose it was in the clause that you need to pay 2 lakh. Suppose, I have not given penalty clause, but it was written in the contract that if you cancel, you need to pay 2 lakh without purchase of machinery. Even though you are not purchasing machinery, you need to pay how much? 2 lakh. Whichever is lower. So can you say you can avoid 10 lakh by paying 2 lakh? So of course you will avoid it now. Because you know that 10 lakh is of no use. But suppose you can use it in some other purpose, but you can't derive the benefit. So you will say, chal, theek hai, will purchase it. Correct now. Then it is quite possible that you want to fulfill the contract. Then you will not try to exit from the contract. Then your obligation become what? 10 lakh. Understood? For this simple word, it is lower of these two. Lower of these two. Understood? Correct. Have you understood? This is onerous contract. So what they want to say, just try to understand. An onerous contract is a contract. Means it is an executory contract only. But now it is contract. In which unavoidable cost of meeting the obligation under the contract exceed what? The economic benefit expected to receive under it. Means the cost is more than expected benefit. Cost is more than expected benefit. Just try to understand. I purchased this camera. The cost of this camera is 80,000. This camera is of 80,000. But if my benefit is less than 80,000, will I purchase? Means benefit is more than 80,000, therefore I purchase it now. Means if after purchasing I realize that the benefit is less than the 80,000, so it is what? Bakwas camera. Understood? And now you have not yet purchased, but you have contracted it, and now you are feeling that benefit is less than cost. It become a onerous contract for you now, because you need to purchase only, even though you know benefit is less than what? Cost. Understood? Therefore it become an onerous contract. It become a onerous contract. Understood? So what they are saying? An onerous contract is a contract in which unavoidable cost, the cost which you can't avoid, unavoidable cost of meeting the obligation under the contract exceed the economic benefit expected to receive under it. In this case, the amount of provision will be equal to unavoidable cost, which is nothing but lower of cost of fulfilling the obligation or any compensation or penalty arising from failure to fulfill it, which is you need to pay for cancelling the contract. I will just change Thora's example. This must you have understood. Suppose in the above example, NRV of machinery is given, that you can sell it at rupees 9 lakh. Quite possible. You can sell it at rupees 9 lakh. Quite possible. But then also expected benefit is less than what? The cost. So it is onerous only now. Benefit is 9 lakh, but cost is what? 10 lakh. It is onerous or it is not onerous? Onerous. But now in this case, if suppose this is the information given, what will be the amount of provision? A will be what? Lower of, can I say lower of 10 lakh minus 9 lakh, that is 1 lakh. So cost of fulfilling the contract will be 10 lakh minus what? NRV. So of course the net amount of cost will be 1 lakh, and you will compare with what? Penalty, whichever is lower. So now your provision will be 1 lakh. Now your provision will be 1 lakh. Understood? Have you understood? Have you understood? Yes, sir. This much you understood? Thoda. Onerous contract you understood? Any question mark is coming from your eyebrow, so you can ask me. Sometimes I can understand from that. Batao, any doubt? You can ask me. Can I extend this example if you permit? I can make it this also onerous if you permit me. This question can be asked in exam. Example number 2. This question question have been asked in CA final exam. Topic is same, so I will teach also same thing here na. This question have been asked at CA final, that I am explaining where? C enter. So you have understood na? They have also understood. You have also understood. There is no difference only. ठीक है ना रे? So why you are teaching CA final? This is CA inter only. The topic is same. Topic is same. Huh? So whatever you are learning here, that also once again will teach where? In CA final. Correct? And the topic is same. Same example every teacher will take if they know AS. Simple na? Now can I extend this example if you permit? This was 5 years na. So I am not writing 1 second building etc. You want me to write down 1 second? लिख लेते हैं क्या जाता है. Building on rent 1 lakh per annum. Correct? And suppose we are standing at this point of time. This is Y1. Correct now? Y1. And right now we are standing यहाँ पर suppose during second year. Something happened during second year. Correct now? This is already 1 year already expired. So it is an executive contract. So we are standing at this point of time. Correct. Now what happened? See, I have taken this building for some production purpose or whatever. But first year now, customer was not coming. So I consulted one Pandit in second year. Yes or no? See, there is some Vastu dosh or not? Bhoot is not there. Correct. Pandit came with some lota. Correct. Pandit examined entire building. Entire building he examined. Each part. Then came to conclusion that this building has Vastu dosh. Change the building right now. Change the building right now. And start your entire production into new building. I said, Achha. Then what will happen? Then profit will come. Customer will come. And within 2 years you will become what? Crorepati. Achha. I need to obey na. Pandit said. बोलना है या सुनो? Correct. Now, so what I have done after this entire discussion, I changed the entire building. Means I shifted the entire production to a new building. Understood? So what happened? We changes the entire production process to a new building. So now I'm not discussing new building. Come to old building only. But at this point of time, now no future production, no future benefit. But you need to, can you cancel the contract? It is an executory contract, but you can't cancel the contract. If you want to cancel the contract, you need to pay penalty for that. Can I say at this point of time, expected cost from fulfilling this contract is more than what? Expected benefit. Benefit zero. You are not using the building for your business purpose. Am I right or not? Am I right? So you are not using the building for any purpose. You shifted the entire production to a new building and you can't cancel it. Suppose it is a binding contract. Means you are supposed to pay 4 lakh for the coming 4 years. But at this point of time it become onerous or not? It become onerous contract. But the AS29 is applicable or not? But how much provision will create? Suppose penalty is not given in the question. So how much cost of fulfilling the contract? 4 lakh. 4 lakh provision required at this moment only. Once it become onerous. Once it become onerous, AS29 is applicable. Of course, AS29 means on 31st March will create provision. So whatever is cost of meeting the future obligation, you need to recognize right now only. Because now you have decided to change the production process to entire production of the new building. So it become onerous or not? Have you understood this point? So 2 examples I have taken and I have tried to link with onerous point. I think you have understood. Onerous contract you have understood? Any doubt? I think you have understood. Chalo, let us complete the chapter now. Because now the chapter is more or less complete. Restructuring. Restructuring is also a topic which need to be considered, but till now no question have been asked from this. So I don't know whether it is important or not important, but it is a part of syllabus. I should teach only now. So I don't know whether this topic is important or not. At final level, it is an important topic. But CA Enter till now no question has been given and no question has been asked also. You want me to teach this? पढ़ा दो sir, क्या है? पढ़ा दो. You want me to teach it or I should delete it? But if questions come, don't blame me. Because I am asking your permission. Can I teach? So restructuring means what? Let us understand. Restructure means you are changing something in the business. So restructuring is a program which changes the scope of business. Which changes the scope of business. Without going into the liquidation. Means I am not saying that entity will not satisfy the going concern assumption. What is going concern assumption? What is going concern assumption? Anyone? 1 second, CA foundation. Going concern. You forgotten or you don't want to answer? You have forgotten or you don't want to answer? Going concern, everyone know, I think so. Forgotten? Okay, nothing to worry. I am there for you. Okay. In simple what I will say, going concern means entity has no intention to liquidate. Entity has no intention to liquidate in near future. So for accounting purpose we assume that entity is a going concern and it will not be liquidated in simple way. So what I am saying, this restructuring is a program which materially changes the scope of business without affecting going concern assumption. Without affecting going concern assumption. Just write down if you want to write down extended without affecting GC. GC means going concern. Without affecting GC. Write down full going concern. Huh? GC means what? Going concern. Don't write GC. Other you will say GC means what? You will think something different. Means if I say, just try to understand. Entity has decided to liquidate. Means it is not restructuring. Because it will affect what? Going concern. So if I will say entity has decided to liquidate, it is affecting what? So it is not restructuring. But if I say one of the business we want to shut down, it is a restructuring program. Means suppose we have three business and we want to close down one business, so we are not liquidating now. So our going concern assumption is remain intact. But one business we want to close down without affecting what? Going concern. So if I want to close down my one business, it will change the scope of business now. For example, initially I used to teach CA foundation, CA inter, CA final. Correct. So there were three business now. Then after some point of I have decided that I will not teach CA foundation. So my business structure will change now. It will change the scope of business. Now I will concentrate only on what? Inter and final. Or suppose I want to change the location of business from one place to another place. We have done from Himayat Nagar, we shifted to SR Nagar. It will change the scope of business. SR Nagar, the crowd is different as compared to Himayat Nagar, student crowd. There we can teach in Hindi also, but here we can't teach in Hindi. The scope of business has been changed now. Am I right or not? Scope of business has been changed. Are you able to understand what I am saying? Yes, sir. So it means, what are the examples of restructuring? For example, sale of business. Sale of business, not entity. When I say business means one of the business. Understood? Sale of business means you can see one division. Termination of a business, not entity. What is business, not entity? When I am saying terminate sale of entity, it is affecting what? Going concern. Right. Or closing of a business location or relocating, closing of one business location or relocation of business. Right. Or changes in management structure, entire management structure you want to change. These are some examples of restructuring. Have you understood? Restructuring meaning, have you understood or not? So restructuring means what? Bolo bolo. Which changes the scope of, which changes materially the scope of business without affecting the going concern. Example, termination of one business or more business but not all business. You can say termination of one business or more than one business but not all business. If you are terminating all business, it will affect what? Going concern. These are few examples of restructuring. This is why we are doing this topic. Let us understand. So we are doing restructuring. Suppose this is 31st March and we have decided to close down a factory. We have decided, we have not actually closed down. Can you say, if I decided to close down one factory, can it close right now immediately? It will take some time. It may take 1 year, it may take 2 years also. So we are expecting that it will be actually closed down, suppose at this point of time. Actual closure will happen at this point of time. Correct. So this is 31st March we are spending here. Already we have decided to close down factory. Now when we close down a factory, so can I say many labor will become unemployed, and because of that we need to compensate them. We need to compensate them because there is some rules also of business. If a factory you are closing down and if this labor become unemployment, it is quite possible you need to compensate them. You need to compensate them. Means it is quite possible because of this decision you need to pay some compensation to whom? Pay compensation to employee. Yes or no? Correct. Have you understood the case? See why we are doing in AS29? See, you have decided to restructure, and because of that restructuring, You need to pay some compensation to employee in future. Now question arises, should we create provision for such compensation right now? Understood the question? Should we create provision on the 31st March for that future compensation? Yes or no? You are saying no. You are saying no. Yes. No. Yes. 1 minute. How many are saying no? How many are saying yes? अरे कितना अच्छा लग रहा है. You are saying some answer. बोलो, it feels good or not? Means you started participating. Yes or no? It feels good or not? Am I right or not? Either correct or wrong, but you started participating. Means you are trying to understand. You are trying to understand the case. And this is a practical example I am giving. Actually, after becoming CA, you will do this only. Because we are not taken birth to do journal entries. We are not taken birth to do ledger account. We don't prepare trial balance. We don't prepare balance sheet. We don't prepare PL account. These are the job of accountant. We are not accountant. We are chartered accountant. So our birth is not to do journal entries. There is a misconception from CA Foundation that we are there to pass journal entry. After becoming CA, I have never passed any journal entry. I have never prepared any balance sheet. So CA are not to prepare balance sheet. CA are to present the balance sheet in such a way that provide reliable information to the user. We present the balance sheet. We don't prepare the balance sheet. Balance sheet कौन prepare करता है? Accountant लोग रही. We are what? Chartered accountant. So we are born to understand this fact, whether we should pass or we should not pass the entry. They are to gada accountant. But we need to understand whether we need to pass or we are not supposed to pass the entry. Understood the difference between CA and non-CA? CA and non-CA. So we are accountant or chartered accountant? Understood? We are chartered accountant. We manage the entire accounting system of a company, and we are actually the person who are right to sign the balance sheet. Means you know stock market? How many of you know stock market? You don't know stock market? You know stock market? You know stock market? You know stock market? You know vegetable market? Vegetable market. Some market to you know na. So there is one stock market. You know entire stock market price is based on our sign. So we are valuable person na. Means our one sign can affect the price of shares. That much power we have in our sign. Our Prime Minister Modi ji bola कि my sign is not important. CA sign is more valuable than my sign. Understood? So we are doing that course, which Modi ji also respect. Understood? Am I right or not? So motivation आ रहा है. There is some motivation to become CA or not? That is required. Understood? लेकिन फ्री में कुछ नहीं मिलता. Nothing is free in India. Nothing is free. You know, you will not give donation to any person without any intention. Means you donate. Have you donated any money to any person? Why you donate? Because you want something back from God. Yes or no? Have you donated some money in temple or wherever you go? Yes, I have also donated. But भगवान मेरे बच्चों को ठीक रखना. You say भगवान I should become CA. You want something in return or not? So nothing is free. It means if you want to become CA, you need to also put efforts. One thing. You are someone if you are saying no, someone if you are saying yes. Now, the last topic for today. So only 5 minutes I will take. If you are saying no, why? If you are saying yes, why? Let me understand your emotions first. How many are saying yes? First you answer. Why yes? ऐसे मजा आ रहा था. Maja will become sometimes saja. Correct? Understood? बोलो why yes? Chalo, you have said yes, you have given logic, I am happy. But I don't know whether it is correct or wrong right now. You also don't know. But you have applied some logic na. Okay, I am happy with you. How many are saying no? If you are saying no, why? But we have decided na. But we have decided. Huh? I'm talking to that person, he is looking good. बोल. मतलब पता है, गले लगाने का मन कर रहा तेरे को. Believe me, such an answer I will not get the CA final. पता I want to hug you रे. पता इतना प्यार आ रहा है तेरे पर. Believe me, 100% clap कर दो यार. Please, I will clap. Means your पक्का become CA. पक्का. It is my guarantee. लिख के रख ले. Time you decide. Time you decide when you will become. पक्का guarantee देता हूँ. It is my words. It is my words. And whenever I say, I don't say to only motivate you. This is पक्का. You will also become CA, but अभी वो feeling नहीं आया. But you will पक्का become CA. Lovely answer. अरे क्या प्यार आ रहा तो क्या कर कुछ पता. Believe me, CA final student will not give this answer. I said that this topic is actually applicable for where? I started this topic with that point only now. And he is answering that. Means you are capable of doing anything. Pass CA, enter, you will become CA. Lovely. What he said, decided. Then what you said, one word? They can withdraw anytime this decision. Means they are not committed to it. Means, just try it. When I will just give one example. I decided to marry one girl. So will I book my marriage expenditure? I decided. Let us come approval also na. From the other party. Suppose I decided to marry a girl. So will I make a provision for my future marriage expenditure? Let approval come also. Let family also take decision. Then we will become committed. Means commitment comes from what? Commitment comes from either binding contract, or if I have done some announcement, because you have decided, I have decided to close down my foundation business. You give me 10 lakh, I will start teaching. And believe me, till now, I have never done any announcement that I will not teach CA foundation. I have never make any announcement in any social media, because I can teach anytime. You give me 10 lakh for one batch, or I will teach na. बोला ऐसा no. I have decided, but I am not committed. So what they are saying? Excellent. Just see whether there is any commitment. If management is committed, then what? Yes. If yes, then recognize what? Provision. If no, then what? Don't recognize provision. These both answer was correct. But I like your answer personally because you have given exact answer. Correct? Means yes was also correct, no was also correct. Bola yes or no? Correct. So don't recognize any provision. Have you understood this point? But only you are supposed to know this. Commitment will come either by binding sale agreement. You have done some sale agreement with some party, or you have done announcement of that. Public announcement kar diya, we want to sell our business. It means you are committed to that. Otherwise, you will never do announcement. You will never do announcement. Am I right or not? Am I right or not? So what they are saying now, you have understood. A provision for restructuring cost is required when recognition criteria of provision is satisfied. Recognition criteria means how many conditions? 3 conditions. Correct? No obligation arises for restructuring until the enterprise is committed to it. That is, there is a binding sale agreement. So until they are committed, don't recognize any provision. If there is a commitment, you can understand from question, yes, there is a commitment, recognize provision. So one of the example of commitment they have given, if there is a binding sale agreement for disposal of that business, it means you are committed. You have done already one contract to sell, so it means you are bind by that now. So there is a commitment. Correct. Then measurement of provision. A restructuring provision should include only the direct expenditure arising from restructuring which are not associated with the ongoing activities of the entity. Means we should create only provision for those costs which are directly related to restructuring. Correct only. Which are not related to ongoing activities of the entity. For example, just try to understand. I said this compensation to employee will arise only because of restructuring. Now, if there is no restructuring, will you pay any compensation? No. It means this is directly related to restructuring. Therefore, we should create a provision for such compensation. But will you create any provision for this admin expense, salary expense, rent expense? No, because that is a part of ongoing activities of the entity. So that is depend upon future conduct of business. So for that you are not supposed to create any provision. This is only clarification given. Understood? I hope you have understood restructuring topic over. Got it? Yes, sir. Excellent, excellent. A restructuring provision does not include such costs as retraining or relocating continuing staff, marketing, investing in a new systems and distribution. So they are just giving a clarification that we should not create provision for training expense, for relocating staff, for marketing, etc. Why? Because this all depend upon future conduct of business. They depend upon future conduct of business. Yes or no? Whether you will train your employee, you will not train your employee, that is depends upon future conduct of business. So these are based on future conduct of business. So these are not directly associated with restructuring, and therefore restructuring provision will not include this type of expenses. This might be important from exam point of view for MCQs. Correct. Chapter over. Can I take another 5 minutes and can I complete it? Okay. Scope. Scope means what? This AS is applicable or not applicable to what? Correct? Understood? So what they are saying, AS 29 is not applicable to financial instrument contract. Means you can see it is not applicable to debtor. Already we have done. Debtor is an example of financial instrument contract. So it is not applicable. Debtor. For debtor, what is applicable? AS4 is applicable. Very good. Already I have explained AS4 is applicable. It is not applicable to executory contract except when the contract becomes onerous. It is not applicable to insurance entity from the contract with policy holders. It is not applicable to insurance company. Till now, no accounting standard for that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is not covered by those which are covered by other accounting standards. If suppose provisions are covered by another accounting standard, that specific AS will be applicable. For example, construction contract AS7 is there, taxes on income AS20 is there, lease AS19 is there, retirement benefit AS50 is there. So for these, it meets the definition of provision, but that provision is created as per respective AS. So we'll go to that AS. Understood? For example, provision for construction contract. So that is covered under AS7. For example, if I say provision for tax, that is covered under AS22. So that is not covered here. Understood? So for that we have some specific accounting standard. So this will understand when we do AS7, AS19, AS22, AS50. Right now you are just supposed to understand that for this particular point AS29 is not applicable because for that another accounting standard is applicable. Correct? Yes, sir. Disclosure. So disclosure requirement for provision. For each class of provision, an entity should disclose. So what are the disclosure requirements? Even though you have done recognition, some disclosures are required in notes to account. For example, opening balance, how much opening balance, additional provision made during the year, what is the additional provision you have created during the year, amount used during the year, if you have used the amount that will be deducted, unused amount reversed, if you have reversed that amount deducted, a brief description of the provision, nature of provision, why you have created that provision is required. The amount of any expected reimbursement, if there is any reimbursement, the amount of any expected reimbursement also require a disclosure if you have not recognized it. Understood? So this is what you need to write down: opening balance plus additional provision created minus any amount used minus any amount reversed. This will be the in the notes to account for that provision. Disclosure requirement for contingent liability. Contingent liability should be disclosed as a footnote. Footnote means notes to account. Means in the foot of balance sheet. In the foot of balance sheet. So footnote to the financial statement, an entity should disclose for each class of contingent liability an estimate of its financial effect. An estimate means measurement, how much amount you are supposed to pay, measurement point. The possibility of any reimbursement, if there is any reimbursement, that should be disclosed. If any reimbursement, that should be disclosed. When any of the above information is not disclosed because it is not practicable to do so, the facts should be stated. Means suppose you are not able to measure the amount of contingent liability, a fact should be disclosed that we are nalayak and we are not able to measure the amount of contingent liability, therefore we are not disclosing the amount. Correct. So whenever it is not practical to measure the amount, we should disclose that we are not able to measure the amount. Understood? Now just write on this disclosure is not my job. You need to memorize this. So from this MCQ question can be asked. So my explanation is not required much because we have done detailed discussion about AS29. Once you have understood AS29, this disclosure you need to memorize. Memorize. Understood? Correct. The scope and these are for MCQs or theory question. They may ask what is the scope of AS29. So you write down this much only. They may ask MCQ based also question from this. So this disclosure and scope is relevant for theory question or MCQs. Normally they don't ask theory question much. So MCQ can be asked from scope and disclosure. I hope this chapter we have done in detail. What you should do, all the questions, whatever is given in question bank, till now I think I have taken only one question. But we have taken many examples. All the examples were from question bank only. So you just start reading all the questions from the beginning. Any doubt will cover the doubt in class. But chapter is completed from my point of view. So all questions homework. AS29, all question homework. So today you'll go home, you'll open what? Question bank. Okay. In that you'll come to AS29, start from MCQ question, then theory question, then practical question. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow. Till then, bye bye. Take care. Enjoy your remaining day. Bye bye.